Excuse me, please. Thank you. Hello, my name is Daniel and this is my Canyon Grizl CF-SL7 and it's in what I'm going to call adventure mode. I'm very shortly going to be embarking upon my first gravel adventure and I thought I'd just document the spec and the setup that I've put together just in case it puts me off of cycling forever. It'll serve as lasting memories. So the bike is a Canyon Grizl CF-SL7, it is a size large and it is in wild berry splatter, which is sort of like a matte pink. It's really grown on me. I wasn't a big fan of it when I saw it online, but when I saw it in the flesh, I absolutely love the colour, so I had to order one. Now I'm going to start from the frame and work my way out. But if you've got any questions or any comments or anything, let me know in the comment section down below. So moving out from the frame set, it's full carbon, it's fairly light for what it is, but not in the current build. Onto the wheel set, I did upgrade the wheel set. Now, upgraded wheels on gravel bikes is a bit of a like what's the point, but I do think that they look better more than anything and I just wanted some nicer wheels on the bike, so I've gone for some Zip 303S's. They are hookless, so I'm not sure if I use them on the road or not, but for the intended purpose they seem to work absolutely fine. They're nice and wide, they seem pretty resilient and yeah, all good so far. Paired with those wheels are some Panaracer Gravel King SK Plus tyres. I've used these in all scenarios. I'm finding in the gravel world people seem to have different tyres for all sorts of different conditions, but the reality is that I use this for training and the odd event. I'm not going to keep changing the tyres, and these seem to be good all-rounders. Sure, they're not super fast and they're not really that good in super muddy conditions, but they're a good all-rounder and they're fairly puncture resistant. They are set up tubeless and I do run about 35 to 40 PSI depending upon the conditions. I'm about 90 kilos and I find that gives me a good balance of grip versus actually rolling resistance. Brakes and drivetrain is mainly as it comes out of the box, so it's got SRAM Rival 1x 160mm rotors with hydraulic discs. These things absolutely stop on a sixpence. It's really making me want to convert from being a rim brake roadie to a disc brake roadie, but I will see how the winter goes. The drivetrain is a 40-tooth 1x crankset and then a 1044 rear cassette. It is 12-speed and I've paired that with a YBN 12-speed chain, which is from NRG Chains, who also waxed the chain for me, and they've also provided me with some 12-speed ceramic bearing jockey wheels. Those sorts of things are a bit like, oh, what's the point on gravel? But actually, I think a waxed drivetrain is the biggest benefit on gravel because it just doesn't get mucky anywhere near as fast as a lube drivetrain. And if you're going for a long day out, like I'm going for, one less thing to worry about is great. Paired to the drivetrain system, I have some Expedo M8 pedals, which I've hacked into them, some Favero Asioma pedal spindles. Lots of complicated words in there for me to say, but that essentially means that I've got power on the bike in a pedal system, but with mountain bike cleats, without having to fork out for a new pair of pedals, because I already had the Faveros lying around anyway. Moving up to the cockpit, I did change out the factory bars. It came with 44cm wide, just standard bars, and they were far too wide for me. So I've gone for a flared bar. I find that this is supposed to be pretty rad in the gravel world, man. And I've got 40cm on the hoods. I ride 40cm width bars on the road, so it feels quite comfortable, but then 44s on the drops. People say it's supposed to give you more stability off-road. If I'm honest, I don't really think the width is a big factor. Just being able to get down a little bit lower perhaps does help than just sticking your elbows out. I've not really done enough fast off-road riding to really come to a conclusion, but it looks cool more than anything, and I fit in with the gravel fraternity. It has made me tilt my shifters in ever so slightly. I am a third cat roadie, so that does happen on my crit bike, but it feels comfy, and that's all I need really, just a bike that feels comfy. Some of you will be being sick in your mouth, I know, at the sight of these clip-on aero bars, but hear me out. I do a lot of time trialing as well, so I'm quite comfortable in the time trial position. When I come to a long road section or a long fire road and there's a stiff headwind, getting on these bars does make you significantly faster, and if nothing else, it's another position to be able to be in when you're doing these ultra endurance things. Being able to get your hands off the bars and rest your wrists and change your shoulder position is a big advantage I've found, so it's more for comfort than anything. Then it does also let me have a computer mount and a light mount in the middle of the bar, so it's somewhere else to have lights other than just on the base bar, so I think they're really useful. I use these high-sided armrests. These are from George Fox, he's a bike fitter in the UK. They're aluminium, so they're super strong, and with them being high-sided, they hold your arms in really well, so if you hit a bit of rough stuff, you're not going to slip your elbow off the side and crash. You're going to still stay locked into that position. I would like to get the SRAM clicks on the end of here as well, but they're short supply in the UK. I can't find any, to be honest, so I've not really looked that hard, but maybe in the future. Bags and storage. I did not realise that for this sort of thing you need to take enough to camp for a week. Now I'm not camping on this trip, so it is just food, clothing and tools. Tools will sit in this back bag here. It's a Topeak medium size, I think it is, rear storage bag. I haven't even unzipped it to be the bigger size. I've got all the standard stuff in there: tubeless repair kit, spare inner tube, multi-tool, CO2s, gloves, all those sorts of things, and enough things to hopefully serve any sort of problem that I can't sort on the side of the road in there. And then other bags, I did sucker into the Canyon Apogora frame set bag set from Canyon. They weren't the cheapest. I think the frame bag was about £110 and that was about £60, but I know that they fit. They do look nice with the bike, and I didn't have to faff around with measuring up the frame and measuring up the frame bags. They're fully waterproof. They really do work well. There's 2 zips on the frame bag, and then there's a nice big pouch on the top tube bag. It enables me to get a lot of food in there and more clothing in there than anything. I haven't really got any spares in here. I've just got electrics and wires, and that's going to be where I'm going to put a spare jacket and gloves and arm warmers and all those sorts of things, and just have some space to put food so that I can ride for a long time. The top tube bag in practice works really well on the fly, so you can be in and out of here while you're still riding. It's a bit more difficult to get in the frame bag, but not impossible. There are options for additional storage on this bike. I can put some mounts on the front forks, but as I'm not camping and I'm not cycling thousands of miles, I haven't done that on this occasion. You can mount bottle cages or bags or other things. I've seen people who do like tarps or little tents and things on the front forks, and I had that in mind when I bought this bike. I wanted to future-proof it in case I did become one of those that rides out to the middle of nowhere and camps over, but I'm not quite up to that yet. We'll stick with one-day events for the time being. Moving on to electronics. So I do have a big power bank in my frame bag, and that will recharge things that do die during the ride, but to be honest, a lot of this stuff is like sustainable in terms of how long it lasts. I've got a Garmin 1040 Edge solar head unit. That's good for about 60 or 70 hours of riding, which is more than I'm planning to do in one go. Underneath that I have a Lezyne 1600 XXL front light. That's good for 4 to 5 hours on its middle setting, and I've got a spare one of those in this bag. I will recharge it if needed, but I can't use it whilst I'm recharging it, so I thought it was important to have a spare light. This Project 76 mount is brilliant for these sorts of things. I can put my computer on the top, and then the light just bolts on via a GoPro mount on the bottom. Really useful space-wise. I can adjust the height of it if I need to, just with some Velcro straps, and that seems to work really well. I've got an additional front light on here as well, more to be seen than to actually see, for when it's dusk and you don't need to use a big light, but you do want to be seen. It does have a constant mode, which you can see a little bit with, so that's more of an emergency than anything else, but I think I'll just have this flashing more than anything. And then a similar sort of vibe on the back here. I've got 2 different types of lights on the rear here. Both will flash for hours and hours. One that charges via USB-C and one that charges via mini USB, just so that if anything goes wrong with a wire or charging, I've got more chance of being able to use one of them rather than having 2 things on the same system, and 2 different types of light, because if one of them is susceptible to getting water damage, then the other one would hopefully be okay, and so on. The biggest challenge I'm finding with riding off-road is hydration. You can go miles and miles in between shops or in between any sort of like cafe stops or anything, so I've tried to carry as much water on here as I can. I'm not going to be using a Camelback or anything. I should have regular stops that are possible, but we're planning to ride through the night at some point, so I wanted to get at least 2 litres on the bike. I've got a 750ml bottle under the bottom bracket, and I've got a side entry bottle cage on that so that it shouldn't drop out whilst I'm going over the rough stuff. And then on the frame, these are only 610ml bottles. These are Camelback bottles. I needed a smaller bottle on the front to clear the frame bag. I could get away with a bigger bottle on the back, but to be honest, I wanted to use bottles with lids, and these Camelback bottles have a good lid on them. When you're riding off-road and you're going through cow poo or you're going through mud, at the very least it's inconvenient and it puts me off of drinking, but the most is you could get ill, couldn't you? So I put one to bottles with lids, and that's the size that they came in. The realistic fact is that I'll be using this bottle underneath the bottom bracket to fill up the other 2 bottles rather than drinking from it, and that's more of an emergency reserve than anything, but I think I will be using it on the day. There is also the opportunity to put a bottle in this bag if needed, but I don't think it will come to that. So there we go. In a nutshell, that's my Canyon Grizl set up ready for an adventure. Time to go adventuring. Hit that subscribe button down below, because in the next couple of weeks I'll hopefully be sharing the video from said adventure when this bike is going to look a whole lot muddier.